What's going on, folks? So, today I'm going to be giving you my thoughts on the latest album from Reckless Love. The name of this album is Turborider, and as always, before I get into that nitty gritty, I'm going to check out the cover. So, boom, there it is. Check it out. What a great cover, I tell you. I mean, it just screams 80s right off the bat. You look at it, it's got the grid lines there on the ground and all the neon colors and all that stuff going on. Even their logo, Reckless Love. I mean, it just looks great. And then you got this kid here on his bicycle, and I mean, the kid, he looks like Rambo, like as a kid. He's got the bandana, he's got the bullets going across, and the knife here, and the front of the bicycle's kind of like a skull with the light shining through it. So, first of all, I like the looks of the cover. Looks awesome. You can't go wrong with just a super 80s vibe, in my opinion. And, what I really like about it is because right off the bat, it kind of screams like synthwave, of course. But like with the kid there, the added kid there with the Rambo looking stuff, it kind of, and the skull there, it gives it kind of an edge. So it really leans more towards like a rock kind of synthwave. You could still just maybe look just like it's synthwave, but I really think it did a nice enough job to where it conveys, it's got a little bit of an edge to it, and it may not just be straight synthwave. So I really like it. I think it's cool. They did a really good job with it. So that's the cover. That's my thoughts on that. Now to get into the album itself, this bad boy runs at a brisk pace. It's 11 songs, 35 minutes. So this bad boy just hustles through. All of these songs are like 3 minutes on the dot almost. 3 minutes and a few seconds, or you get the odd 4 minute, and then 3 minutes and 30 seconds here and there. But it just moves. Granted, one of the songs is like 45 seconds. It's like a prelude into the next song, so to speak. Anywho, so what you're gonna get here is really like melodic rock, hard rock meets synthwave meets pop, in to a degree. Some of the songs really do have a kind of a poppy sound, like a radio-friendly sound, but it's all like in a very 80s style with a lot of melodic rock, hard rock elements thrown in. First and foremost, the synth work, keyboard work on this album is phenomenal. Everything sounds great. It really gives that 80s atmosphere. And, I'm not even talking necessarily like true 80s. I'm talking like the nostalgic 80s that we have now. Everything that goes like extreme 80s with the heavy synth and just that synthwave sound. That's really what it is. It has that it's really just like a synth, like almost it could have worked as a synthwave album if you like remove the guitar and everything else. The sounds are really great, and it sounds more like the movie soundtracks in some of those 80s movies, not so much as the music. That's what I'm saying. It's got that modern throwback 80s synth sound, the iconic sound that we associate now with the 80s, just that heavy synth beats and all of that stuff going on. So it's really, really cool. And, it sounds, again, if you just strip the synth elements out, they really sound like it could have been in a 80s movie soundtrack or whatnot. It really gives that great atmosphere, that vibe. So phenomenal work on that. Phenomenal. And the other thing is I really love the guitar work on here as well. It just works in conjunction with the synth and keyboard. Great, solid riffs. And, it goes together with the synth, but also stand on its own, because sometimes everything will build and it'll come through and like some really great guitar solos on here. Very melodic, kind of goes with the music very well, and then shreds a little bit, but very distinctly. the guitar work, I feel like, was just, it's impeccably done, and with such precision. It just sounds great. It goes along with everything really great, and adds that rock, melodic rock element, and doesn't drown anything out and doesn't get drowned out, and it just complements the synthwave vibe very well. And they just both work hand in hand together excellently. I thoroughly enjoyed that dynamic between the guitars and the synth and keyboard. Really, really solid. They just did a great job getting those two kind of to be cohesive together and work together, but have their shining moments here and there, and just really well done. I can't overstate, just really, really well done. And the drum work and whatnot is also really good, but it's the guitar and synth dynamic that really stood out to me. And the vocals are very, very good as well. Great range. He's got an awesome range, and he's got just, he'll kind of adapt his voice sometimes for depending on the song style and the way that it goes. But his range and his ability to capture, again, also that 80s kind of spirit, just really, really well done on that. So, a lot, all the elements pretty much are there. Really great, top-notch vocals and instrumentation and stuff like that. And, but this was an album that I really, really wanted to love. I like it. I like it quite a bit, but I really wanted to love it. And, let me get into a few of the things. Y'all go through some of the tracks and kind of give you some of my gripes or feelings, things that, brought it down a little bit for me. But anywho, we start out with track number 1, the best song on the album, in my opinion, and was my pick for best song, I think, when it came out in January, was it? Yeah, January. It was my pick for best song of the month. Turborider. It just doesn't get much better than this, but unfortunately, you don't really get anything else quite like it on the album. This song is kind of on its own as far as the style, just with the real kind of ripping sound with the guitar and synth and the vocals, with like the power metal screams and, just that energy. Some of the other songs have some good energy, but this song is just pumping, man. It is pumping and screaming, like with the guitars and the synth and the vocals again, like with this power metal screams and all that. Oh man, it really doesn't get much better than that song. So really starts out with the best. It gives you the best first and foremost. Then you get tracks 2 and 3, Eyes of a Maniac and Outrun, the other 2 singles that were released, which are both really, really great. I like them a lot. They're more of they're slower paced, a little more of an atmospheric 80s, almost pop rock kind of style, but just really catchy, really good vibes, great synth work. I really like those songs a lot. Track 4, you get Kids of the Arcade, which is a cool song. It's similar to kind of Outrun and Eyes of a Maniac in a sense, but I think it's got a little bit more of an edge to it, maybe. But anywho, one thing is really cool about it is like the lyrics are talking about kids at the arcade, of course, and having spare quarters so they can replay the game. And the sound not only is nostalgic, but also just the lyrics, talking about, pumping quarters into the machines at the arcades and all that stuff. And then in the bridge, there's even there's reference to the game Mortal Kombat. He says like round 1, flawless victory. And then round 2, and this is funny because I didn't notice this. This is like a nitpick, but not like, this is like a silly nitpick that I noticed on a subsequent listen. Not on my first time through, but on a subsequent listen, I realized that he says round 2, fatality, and then after that he says finish him, and then it kind of goes into the solo. And now I get why they wanted to end on finish him and go into like the solo, but that's, you can't, finish him is supposed to go before fatality because you perform the fatality after to finish him in the game. So it is what it is. Just something funny I noticed. Again, I understand why they wanted to end on finish him, and they still wanted to have the fatality reference in there, but they got it switched, but it's okay. Again, I understand why they did it. So that's a fun song. Track 5, you get Bark at the Moon, which is actually a solid cover of the Ozzy Osbourne classic. It's got that added synth, and is one of the more hard rock songs on there for obvious reasons, but a lot of guitar work and whatnot. So it's a pretty cool cover. He even vocally, he even mimics Ozzy Osbourne a little bit. There's a hint of Ozzy's signature sound in his voice during the song. And track 6 is Prelude, Flight of the Cobra. It's reminds me almost of like a Van Halen type of thing, where it's just kind of like a guitar build up really to track 7, like a Cobra. Track 8, For the Love of Good Times. I really like this song. This one is almost, I guess you could consider almost sort of like a ballad, but it's got a really nice chorus. Vocally, he really has some great movement in the chorus and a good melody, and really enjoyed that song. Track 9 is probably the weakest point of the album for me. The song's called 89 Sparkle, and it's really just kind of like a party sounding song, but not even so much of like 80. It almost sounds like something Daft Punk would have released. It just doesn't quite, it's very, very on the pop side, and it just doesn't land for me. Again, you can be really poppy. Like, I'm not like bashing pop music or Daft Punk. Daft Punk released some good music while they were active and all that stuff. But this one, it just doesn't really quite land for me. I just couldn't get into it. And the album does end pretty decent with track 11, Prodigal Sons. It's kind of cool. It's got like a harder synth vibe, almost like an opus kind of sound with the synth, a grand, bold kind of sound. It's a pretty cool song. There's a really cool line in it where he says something like, "Bless me, Father, for I have synth." And so it kind of, the whole song is somewhat built around, kind of like party lifestyle and random things, but like, instead of saying, for I've sinned, or, I have sinned and will sin again, he says, I have synth and will synth again. And it's funny, and it's a catchy song, so I liked it. But ultimately, though, by the end of the album, once you hit 89 Sparkle, things kind of start just feeling, redundant's kind of a strong word to say, but even though the album is so short, by the end of it, you're a little fatigued of the sound. I feel like, the sound didn't have enough of a variety. Yes, the songs have somewhat of a variety, but they just got too stuck up on this one particular sound, I guess, and there's not enough of a dynamic throughout the album, or I can't think of quite the right word, but it's like you have Turborider, which is like this kind of extreme song, and then all the rest of the album is somewhat the same. It's hard to explain because, there are standout songs, of course, but, by the end of it, I was just kind of like, I was wishing for more, I guess I wish that there was some more, of an edge brought to some of the other songs, or something. I don't know. It's really hard to explain, but it just kind of leaves you wanting a little bit more. I feel like I expect a little bit more, where a lot of the songs kind of land in the, it's a decent song category, and not enough in the, man, this is all really great. You kind of feel that way at first, even like on my third listen, when I started it and I listened to Turborider and Eyes of a Maniac and Outrun, I was like, man, this is so good. oh man, this is so, so good. But as the album goes, that feeling kind of dwindles to where it just starts feeling kind of samey, or you just start to get a little fatigued with the sound. I guess it was just a little too much of the same. So by the end, you're just kind of like, that what it could have been. It's still, at the end of the day, though, like I said, I do like the album quite a bit. It's easy to listen to and it's brief. And, the synth work is fantastic. And like I said, the guitar work is fantastic and the vocals. And, I dig the sound and what they're going for. And, it works pretty well for the most part, but it just kind of wears out its welcome a little bit. I just feel like there wasn't enough of, you know, variety or dynamic, or something to just really kind of keep things feeling fresh. I guess it's just kind of missing a little something, so it keeps it from being great. Still a good album though, and I still recommend it for at least a one-time listen if you kind of like what you hear, if you kind of like the idea of this real 80s synthwave sound mixed with the melodic rock, hard rock vibes. It's definitely worth a listen at 35 minutes long. But just don't expect, if you listen to Turborider, don't expect the whole album to be quite like that, because that's the pinnacle. And then again, Eyes of a Maniac and Outrun are also really fantastic. So it gives you a false sense of security, somewhat, in my opinion. But it is what it is. Anywho, if I were to recommend you one song to give you the best idea of what to expect, this is a really, really tough one for me to decide, because of just the way that the album is. But I would recommend either Kids of the Arcade or Like a Cobra. Either one of those, honestly, I feel like gives you a good sense of what the album is like as a whole. Whichever one you feel like sounds better to you. If you're like, oh, Kids of the Arcade, that sounds cool, kind of nostalgic, or Like a Cobra also kind of sounds like a nostalgic, action 80s movie, like that movie Cobra, I think it was called, with Sylvester Stallone, if I'm not mistaken. So, yeah, whichever one of those kind of sounds like something you want to listen to, have at it. I think both of those equally kind of give you the best idea. So, yeah, that's my thoughts on Turborider, the album, the latest album from Reckless Love. If you've listened to it already, let me know what you thought in the comments down below, and I'll catch y'all next time. Ranger, out.